Hi, my name is Linda Rau, and I'd like to give you a brief tour and a brief history of our beautiful town square and the buildings that surround it. Our Norwood Town Square walking tour. South Dedham officially became Norwood when it was incorporated in 1872. However, long before it was incorporated, Norwood was a growing town and busy stopping point for travelers from Boston going south to Wrentham and on to Providence, and also coming from those destinations to Boston. At that time, there was no town square or even a business district, just a random cluster of small streets, shops, and residences on or around Market Street, which is now Central Street, with the main buildings being the Village Hall, which was built in 1860. It was a huge building with stores on the ground level and a large meeting hall on the second level. And it was at the Village Hall that the residents voted to become a separate town called Norwood. In 1915, George Willett purchased the building and moved it to where Spot and that small strip mall stands, and it burned down in an enormous fire in 1964. The streets around the center consisted of the Village Tailor, where St. Catherine's stands, and further along what is now Washington Street, a general store, later moved to the Boyden Block, and a Teot Norwood Tavern Hotel, which had many names, which stood where the statue in the town square is. The first building we like to showcase is the Norwood Lockup. And yes, that was its name, the Norwood Lockup. It was built in 1879 and it was mostly used as a place to hold tramps and men under the influence by the constables. Norwood did not have a formal police force until 1903. It was a cold, small-roomed building, and at one time a couple of guests were so cold they lit their mattresses and blanket on fire to stay warm. Plus, people were always escaping, just climbing out of the windows. So after the town memorial hall was built, it received a spruce-up in 1928 and bars on the windows. It was last in use as a lockup in the 1960s and only as a holding cell until prisoners could be transferred to the Dedham jail. When the police and fire station was built in the 1960s, the building was used as storage, and during the 1980s, the town youth coordinator had offices there. It is now once again used as storage. The fire station, which is currently the Old Colonial Cafe restaurant. The station was built in 1907. Prior to that, before Norwood was Norwood and still South Dedham, they had two fire stations. Station 7 was located near the Hook, where St. Catherine's Cushing Hall is located, on Washington Street, and the second station, Station 1, was at the end of Walnut Ave and Washington Street. It was to service the lower section of South Dedham. Both were poorly equipped with basically bucket brigades and hand pumps on wheels. The 1907 firehouse had horse-drawn firefighting equipment and tanks and eventually motorized engines. The second floor was used as police station initially, before the police station moved to the bottom of the town hall. It remained Norwood's only fire station until 1961 when the new police fire station building was built on what was Dunn's Pond on Manhattan Street. Initially it flooded constantly because Dunn's was a bog, but subsequent renovations and improvements have solved the flooding issue. In 1965, a group of students petitioned the selectmen to convert the building that stands as the OCC into a teen center. The request was denied to us and the building was used for storage. In the 70s, it was converted to an upscale restaurant by Peter Maglio and his sister Carla Foley. It was called Carla's, and when they left, it was taken over and renovated into the OCC, the Old Colonial Cafe, which is right here, right now. The Norwood Memorial Municipal Building, say that one 5 times fast, or our town hall. As George Willett continued his plans for a business district and town square and made Market Street Central Street and extended it, the talk and desire for a building to house the municipal offices of the town and to be a centerpiece for the new town square, became prominent. A building commission was set up, headed by Francis Foley, who hired William Upham to design the building, wanting it to be a showcase to honor all veterans from all wars from the town of Norwood. Norwood has had participants in wars all the way back to the Revolutionary War, Argyll in 1775. The design was based on buildings from colleges in England and other parts of the United States. They broke ground and the cornerstone was laid in November of 1927. The project was under the supervision of Milton White of the Edward F. Miner Building Company. The original cost was $127,000, with an additional $62,000 being approved by town meeting. Walter Tilton, a Norwood philanthropist and pillar of the town, gave $50,000 for the carillon, which is still played today. The cannon is from World War I and was made at the German Kruppswerk. It apparently did fire at the dedication in 1928, but subsequently was cemented up. In 1980, there was a move to have it removed by some townspeople from the front, but the Board of Selectmen, headed by Walter Dempsey, blocked it. It does not fire now. The Norwood Memorial Municipal Building was dedicated with much fanfare and dignitaries on November 11, 1928, on the 10-year anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended World War I. Our town square. The current town square, or common, was envisioned by George Willett as a central business district framed by the town hall and the theater, and he undertook this huge effort in the early 1900s. Originally called the Hook, it got its name from the large iron hook outside the Norwood Tavern, or the Norwood House. It is where stagecoach and wagons stopped on their way to Rosendale and Boston. They would get fresh horses, stay overnight, or just have refreshments. It was originally just a small house called the Old Tavern, run by Paul Ellis and Louis Rhodes. It put on additions and became a hotel called Norwood House, and it stood approximately where the statue is on the common. It was taken over by R.D. Hartshorn and was known for a while as Hartshorn's Hotel. Hartshorn ran a livery stable behind Norwood House that provided fresh horses. After Hartshorn, it was taken over and run by Uncle Joe Sumner, but it was while under Hartshorn that the murder-suicide happened. There are two versions of the story, but the result is the same. A Dr. Marston had hired half of the tavern rooms upstairs as a sanatorium. Dr. Marston had a wife and daughter. His wife was mentally unstable and becoming worse. Version 1, she overheard her husband and Reverend George Hill, his good friend, discussing admitting her to an asylum. Not good places back then or now. She waited, faking sleep until her husband was asleep, and shot him. She then went to the nurse room, but found it locked, then to her daughter's room and shot herself and the daughter. The second version is that she was insanely jealous of a female patient of her husband's, and the patient's door was locked, so she shot her daughter. Then she shot her husband and threw herself across his bed and shot herself. Whichever one, it was the first murder-suicide in Norwood. The original town square had a large pine tree situated where the gazebo now stands. The Walter Dempsey Memorial Gazebo was erected in 1993. Mr. Dempsey was a selectman in Norwood for many years. In 1988, Frank Simone, a businessman and a philanthropist in Norwood, commissioned Robert Shore of Woburn for a statue. It's called Protection of the American Way. The statue has engraved on it, "The price of freedom is eternal vigilance," and it sits at the corner where the Hartshorn Hotel once stood. The churches around the square. The two churches that are prominent are the United Church of Norwood, which was originally the Universalist Church. It was destroyed by fire in 1884 and rebuilt with contributions from Louis Day, who was a member of the parish. In 1934, a fragment of the Methodists merged with the Universalists to form the United Church of Norwood as it is today. St. Catherine's was situated on the land that was once the small building of the Universalist Church. They offered the building to the Catholics who were traveling to Roxbury for Mass. Although in the 1840s, Mass was said twice a month at Patrick Fahey's house, which was at the corner of Manhattan Street and Prospect. In 1862, they had their first church services in this small building, where they stayed until 1910 when the current church was built. The Norwood Theater was designed again by William Upham to complement the planned Memorial Municipal Building as the anchors to the town square. It opened on August 31, 1927, and run by Mrs. Thompson, Hayden, and William Breen as a venue for live performances similar to today. It was adapted in the 40s as a movie house, and in the 1970s a second screen was added in the balcony. In 1990 it was bought by the Fiddlehead Theatre Company, and then when they no longer did performances, in 2010 it was purchased by Susan Lewis, and after meticulous restoration to its original Spanish Romanesque style was reopened on August 31st, 2012, 85 years to the day of the original opening. The Norwood Theatre was recently featured on the Travel Channel's show, Trending Fear. Susan Lewis's daughter, Jen, who works on this program, remembered that when they were doing the renovations, there were a couple of instances of people feeling fear in the lower parts, and also the sightings of a small boy up in the balcony. They brought in the paranormal people and found that when the theater was originally being built, there was a collapse of some foundations and people were trapped and died in the basement of it. And for some reason, there's a little boy that haunts the balcony named Daniel. So it's infamous, but it's also a wonderful place to go and see a performance. The stores that bordered the theater and the town common were Furlong's, which is a candy store now located up on Route 1, but at the time it was like a soda fountain candy. It made its own premium candy, and it had a jukebox in it and was a hangout for a lot of the town's teenagers. There was an A&P supermarket, jewelry stores, and Lewis's, which is on the corner, was once only a men's bar in the front side, and women were not allowed in it until probably well into the 70s. The Civic Center was dedicated in 1930, and it was built to complement the municipal building and the theater. Before it was the Civic Center, it was actually the Norwood Armory and was home to the National Guard Company G. It was two-storied with a large basement. It provided space for Norwood dances, practices for drum and bugle corps, the Norwood Debonaires, and the other community events, as well as being an active National Guard base. During the blizzard of 1978, it was the command center for the region, especially Route 128, that saw hundreds of cars trapped and people stranded. 1981, the old Civic buildings on Washington Street were sold to the Norwood Hospital, and Senator John Kinley initiated buying the Armory as a replacement for the Civic Center. The National Guard was a bit hesitant to sell the building, and a legislative action was initiated by Representative Greg Sullivan of Norwood and a Boston City Councilor who was a former aide to Senator Joseph Himmelty by the name of Thomas Menino. The bill passed and the building was bought for $1. It contained a gymnasium, game rooms, and a senior center, and the Registry of Motor Vehicles office. It opened as a Civic Center in 1984 and still continues as a Civic Center today. Thank you for listening to a tour of our town square. Sources of information for this brief talk in history of our town square are the Norwood Historical Society archives, the book Images of America Norwood Edition by John M. Grove and the Norwood Historical Society, the book Norwood: A History by Patricia J. Fanning, Remembering Norwood, Win Everett's Tales of Tyotte, edited by Heather S. Cole and Edward J. Sweeney, and Images of America South Norwood Edition by the South Norwood Committee and the Norwood Historical Society. Books are available through the Norwood Historical Society website at norwoodhistoricalsociety.org.